Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lisa. I'm a personal finance expert and a certified financial planner. I teach personal finance and how to live an abundant life. Today's video is for anyone who wants to sprint towards a savings goal before the year ends. Specifically, I'm going to talk about how to save $10,000 by the end of the year. Now, if you don't live in the United States and you go by a different currency, just pick an equivalent round number that equals anywhere between 2 to 3 months of living expenses or whatever goal you want to choose. Now, if you are watching this video when I am dropping it, it means you have 5 months till the end of the year. Now, I already know what some of you are probably thinking.
Is that even realistic? I only make X amount and everything is so expensive. I don't make enough money and everything is so expensive.
So here is my honest answer on whether or not you can save $10,000 by the end of the year. It depends. For some of you, $10,000 might be totally within reach. Maybe you have a high income relative to your expenses. Maybe you have a dual income household. Maybe you live in a lower cost of living area with a high income job. And maybe you simply have a lot of wiggle room to find the savings in your current budget. For other people, especially if you're dealing with debt, a tight income, more medical expenses, and more dependence, it might not be as realistic. Or it's simply what we call a moonshot goal. A moonshot goal is a goal that is extremely ambitious. It feels bold, it feels wild, it feels maybe even impossible at first glance, which is why some of you guys think I'm crazy that you could even potentially do this by the end of the year. The term moonshot stems from back way when in the 60s when the US wanted to land a man on the moon, which nobody thought was possible, except the people who had the moonshot goal. So here's what I want you to know. If you fall into the camp where that amount, $10,000, feels like a moonshot, or very outrageous to hit by the end of the year, I want you to know that you don't have to hit $10,000 to make this video worth your time. Even if you save $2,000 or $5,000 by the end of the year using the methods I'm going to share with you, that goes without saying that that is a huge win. I bet you're still going to be way happier than if you saved $0. And another thing I want to point out about moonshot goals, because we had a lot of these back when I worked at Google for a decade of my life. Moonshot goals are less about guaranteeing success, but a lot more about thinking bigger than you're used to, attempting things that you don't normally attempt, showing up differently, seeing how far you can go, or aiming higher or further than you ever have before. So, regardless of when you're watching this video or starting this challenge, let's talk through 3 methods that are going to help you build momentum and stack your savings. I'm going to talk through 3 different methods, and for each one, I'm going to talk about how it will help you hit your savings goal and give you a bunch of examples that you can try to hit your savings goal. And last thing, the more of a moonshot your goal might seem, for example, for those of you whose money is really tight and 10,000 seems impossible, it might mean that you should not just choose one method, but maybe combine 2 or all 3. Let's start with method number 1. If you want to succeed on a savings sprint, consider strategic spending. That was a whole lot of S's, and that wasn't even from ChatGPT or anything. I made that up, and it was just a bunch of S's. All right, for success with saving, let's talk about strategic spending. This first method is about reworking your current expenses with a little asterisk in that I don't want you to completely deprive yourself. This method is perfect for anyone who already has an income, especially if you're on a fixed income or don't have a lot of time to try other things, which we're going to talk about in a second. So the goal here isn't to make more money, but it's to reclaim more of the money that you already earn. You take in money and you're using it on various things. You want to reclaim some of that during this sprint of savings so that you can hit your savings goal. When you become strategic with your spending, you're simply starting at the basics. You are looking at the money you're already making, taking a look at where it's going, and then making intentional decisions to reclaim some of that money to redirect it to your savings goal. Remember, If you are opting into this savings challenge, this sprint towards $10,000 or whatever your chosen goal is, mentally, you are making this your priority. This is becoming your number one goal for the next 5 months. When you look at where your money is going, you are making decisions like,
all right, I can give that up for now because the new priority is saving.
and in fact, this is kind of why I like saving in sprints, like a money challenge, because I think it's a lot more doable, at least for me. I think it's more doable to restrict yourself when you know that there is an end in sight, when you are cutting things out temporarily, not forever, just for now, while you're trying to hit this big goal. So let me jump into some ideas of some things you can do to be more strategic with your spending. Number one, you can cancel unused subscriptions or memberships. A lot of people forget some of the things that they're even paying for on a regular basis. You can also try a no spend week or a no spend category challenge. So it's basically like challenge inception. You're going to do a mini challenge within this bigger challenge. Pick either a length of time, a week, a month, or dare I say 5 months, or pick a category that you are going to stop spending in. Another way to be strategic with spending is to reduce your spending on food. A lot of times this tends to be a high line item in people's budgets, and I would suggest to start by looking at your current spending. Look at the last month or the last couple of months to see what you're currently spending on food. If you can take a look at that, see what the number is, most of you can bring that down over the next few months, and that'll free up a good amount of money that you can put towards your savings goal. Another thing you can do is to downgrade purchases. So for example, for your groceries, maybe for a couple months, you trade those name brands for generics. This is not my favorite tip if it sacrifices actual nutritional quality, but like I said, for things like this where you're going on a sprint and you have an end in sight, this is a temporary change that hopefully won't affect you in the long term. But in the short term, it can help you with your savings goals. Another thing you can do is to use your local resources for free things to replace the things you currently pay for. For example, your local library has books, movies, probably events or classes that you can go to for free, which means they can temporarily replace the things you pay for. Another way to be strategic with spending is to split bulk purchases with your friends or your family members or neighbors. I think about my Costco hauls. When I go to Costco, I feel like I save a lot of money, but in order to save the money, I have to spend a lot up front. So if you can buy certain things in bulk and save money on the per item cost, but on top of that, split purchases with other people, you're gonna save in the long term and not have to shell out as much money up front, which means you're gonna free up some cash that you can use towards your savings goals. Another thing you can do, cut back temporarily on non-essentials. Take a look at all of your non-essential expenses and see what you can put on pause or on hold. Streaming services, beauty treatments, monthly boxes or subscriptions. I'm gonna keep saying this over and over again. This is temporary. You can pause things just until January or until you're done with your savings sprint, but your non-essential expenses are the best place to look if you want to reclaim that money and redirect it to your priority right now, which is to save that $10,000 by the end of the year. Last example that I have in this category is to shift your transportation strategy. For example, find somebody to carpool with, whether that's to school or to work. Consider public transit if it's safe and accessible to you. Maybe bike or walk if those are options. Every little bit helps. If you can do this for a few months, you can save money on gas as well as other maintenance costs for your car. I want to remind you that spending strategically is about realigning your spending with your values. You don't have to cut out all of the joys in life and all of your non-essentials, but you do want to remind yourself that every dollar you reclaim is a dollar closer to that goal. You're gonna have to find that right balance for you in your life, where maybe you're restricting yourself a little bit right now during this savings sprint, but not too much to where you hate life and might just quit altogether. Now, before we move on to method number 2 on how you can reach your $10,000 savings goal, I want to drop a resource that you can use specifically for strategic spending. I'll drop a link in the description to this checklist on ways to find money in your budget by cutting things out temporarily. Think of it as a list of ideas, not that you have to do every single one. And you can also use it as a worksheet to help you start to calculate what is realistic for your savings goal, given your current cash flow of money, and which expenses you can realistically cut out temporarily. All right, method number 2, this should be no surprise. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. Method number 2, make more money. This method is about how do we add more income between now and the end of the year, but most importantly, without adding more expenses. And on top of that, I want to make it a little more trickier. I want you to find a way to do this without completely burning yourself out. This method of focusing on making more money is perfect for those of you who have extra time, who have flexibility, or maybe you are highly motivated to hit this moonshot goal of $10,000. And again, the reason I kind of like having a savings sprint is I'm a little less worried about you burning out if it's just for a few months. But still, just be mindful about it and don't go trying to sleep only 2 hours a night because you're trying to make more money. Please don't do that. So here's the thing. Making more money doesn't have to be a full-on side hustle or a second job unless you want it to be. Even if you just have a few one-off wins, those can add up pretty fast. So I'm going to give you some examples of ways you can boost your income. Maybe you try a different thing each month of this challenge, or maybe you try to do it all at once. Sell clothes, gadgets, or even furniture that you already own and that you don't want anymore. You can even do a challenge within a challenge, like set a 30-day goal of selling $500 worth of things on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or Poshmark, or even by having a garage sale. Quick side note, I'm very aware that some of my viewers are not based in the United States, so I just want you to know that if I mention an app or a service that's not available in your area or your country, just use good old Google to find out comparable resources where you live. For example, services like Poshmark, but in the UK. I looked that up and what popped up was Depop and Vinted. I don't know anything about those, but I imagine those are places where you can sell clothing. Sorry, I just wanted to call out that a lot of the recommendations I give on this channel are US specific, simply because that's where I live and that's what I'm familiar with. Another thing you can do to make money is to offer a skill on a one-time basis. It could be things like helping someone write a resume, proofreading something, graphic design, photography, tutoring. Chances are you probably already have a skill that someone else is lacking. Now, the hard part about this is finding customers, but simply start with figuring out what are some things that you can offer to people and think about where you can find customers and then go from there. You can find gig work that works outside of your regular work hours. For example, if you work a regular 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, babysitting, pet sitting, house sitting are great side gigs that are typically on off hours. And these are regular things that are needed in every community. It's actually surprising to me how many people need a dog sitter or a house sitter while they take a weekend trip, or how many close family and friends with kids who just want a date night out and someone to watch their kids for a couple of hours. This is how I made a lot of side hustle money when I was in college and even after college. It does take finding people who are willing to pay you for this and who you have a trusted relationship with, but there is a market out there for it. Another thing you can do to make more money is rent out a room, a parking space, a storage area, or even items that you have. Maybe you have a lawnmower and your neighbor doesn't. Again, these things take some effort in renting out items. There's some risk to that, right? Someone could just steal your stuff. But we're trying to get creative here because if you have a savings sprint and your goal is not to cut out any expenses, you want to focus on making more, we got to come up with some ideas. Another thing you can do is, if you are using a credit card responsibly, meaning you're not carrying a balance from month to month, and you have cashback rewards, something you can do is to use those rewards to cover your everyday expenses. For example, something I do is I run all of my expenses through a credit card, and then I use the rewards points to get gift cards. And because I can use those gift cards to buy those things that I need, it frees up the money that I was gonna spend on those things. For you, in this savings challenge, if you're able to do something similar, you can take that freed up money and put it towards your savings. This one I would say is a little harder, but I'm currently doing it right now, so I know it's possible. You can join paid research studies or focus groups. These often pay anywhere from $50 to $200, maybe more, and in some instances can be done virtually. Low-key, I think the ones that pay more and that feel more legit are the ones that are in person, but you gotta make sure it's a reputable research agency or a university or something that's running the study. So full disclosure, I will say that sometimes it's hard to find these and to qualify for them, but even if you do one a month, that few $100s can help you inch closer towards your savings goal. And another thing you can think about that's gig work related is to offer seasonal services. If it's around the holidays, maybe you're getting close to the end of the year and you really got to sprint, maybe you do some gift wrapping. Maybe you help people set up their holiday decorations. Think about skills you have or just things you're willing to do that some people would rather pay someone else to do. So the method of making more money to hit that savings goal is about being resourceful. I'm not big on side hustles and gig jobs and trading time for money for the rest of your life. But the reason I'm comfortable making these suggestions in this video is because we're not talking about forever. I don't want you to hustle forever and burn out. I want you to sprint towards a savings goal, prioritize it, focus on it, and take your finances to the next level by the end of the year. All right, so we are on to method number 3. You might be wondering, what could that possibly be? Method 1, the approach is cutting out expenses using the money that you're already making. Method 2, maybe you don't want to cut any expenses out, or maybe you have cut out everything you possibly can. Method number 2, I gave you a bunch of ideas of making more money. Method number 3 are what I call big leaps. You could also call them extreme moves. Now, real quick, before we dive in, if you are getting anything from this video, please don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments. It helps out my channel and I'd love to hear your feedback and what things you're gonna try to hit your moonshot goal. All right, big leaps. Method number 3. This is where we go bold. This method is for people who wanna make major moves, remember, temporarily, if you want to reach a big savings goal. If $10,000 feels like a moonshot, if money is extra tight already, and if methods 1 and 2 aren't enough to get you to that big goal, these are ideas for you. Now, disclaimer, full disclaimer, these are not everyday tactics. I actually do not recommend these for everyone. I think these are the things you consider doing if you are aiming for big wins, and most of all, if you're willing to get uncomfortable and potentially make some sacrifices in order to do it. So let's talk through a couple examples. Number 1, changing your living situation in a major way. So for example, can you move in with family to save some money? Or can you take on a roommate temporarily? This can significantly slash the amount you're paying for housing costs. A lot of people won't do it because sometimes it doesn't feel realistic and it can be a big disturbance to your current lifestyle. But I gave you all the disclaimer. These are big moves that can be uncomfortable, but they are options that you can look into if you are ready to really sprint towards those major savings goals. Number 2, sell your car or downgrade your vehicle. So this is kind of 2 in 1. For selling your car, this will only work if you don't rely on your car every day or if you don't need it multiple times every day. I had a friend who lived in Los Angeles, which many people know as a commuter city, like you have to have a car. Most people can't imagine living in LA without a car. But I had a friend a couple years ago who sold his car and he decided he was just gonna take Uber anytime he needed to go anywhere. After a few months of doing it, he said he didn't mind it. He actually liked it. It was less maintenance to have a car and a parking spot, etc. Now, the thing is, he lived walkable to a lot of the things he needed because we are in a city, there's a lot of things nearby, and lucky for him, he worked remotely. He told me that on the times that he did need to get around town, the costs of the ride shares added up were still way less than what he was paying on a car payment plus insurance and routine maintenance. So for him, not only did he get a lump sum amount when he sold his car, but he was also freeing up money on a monthly basis. So again, this is not going to be realistic for some of you who have long commutes, who live in places where things are spread out, who live in places where you can't rely on public transportation or ride shares, or for those of you who simply depend on having a car. In which case, another extreme move and big leap you can consider when it comes to transportation is if you have an expensive, newer luxury car, you can downgrade. If you can make the numbers work out, this might mean your monthly payment is reduced or you have none at all. And the thing about kind of downgrading cars from a newer car to an older car or a luxury car to a regular one is this often saves you also in maintenance and insurance. Again, you want to be strategic. You don't want to sacrifice quality and end up downgrading to a car that's going to need major work done on it. But in some instances, downgrading can save you a lot of money on a monthly basis and help you towards that big moonshot goal. Number 3, you can delay any travel plans or any big ticket purchases in the next 5 months. So another disclaimer, y'all know I do not like telling you to restrict yourselves so much because I believe doing so makes people go backwards in their financial goals. But in the case of a savings sprint like this, or if it's a case where you weren't fully committed to a specific trip or a big purchase, all you gotta do is not do it. For example, maybe you said yes to attending a destination wedding for a family member that you aren't even close to. Or maybe you intended to spend a chunk of your money because you want this brand new fancy vacuum cleaner, but you already have one that does the job. You just want the nicer one. In any case, these are big ticket items and purchases that can be redirected to your savings goal. The other thing about delaying a purchase, especially when it's a non-essential, right? Replacing a vacuum that's not broken or anything because you want a nicer one. Delaying that purchase can simply make you think about the purchase longer to make sure you really, really want it. It's a game of priorities. How bad do you want that versus how bad do you want to hit this $10,000 moonshot goal by the end of the year? I can't decide that for you. That's up for you to decide. That's why I'm giving you so many examples because maybe you try a few of them and those work for you and the other ones don't. All right. Next, this is the one you guys were probably expecting me to say throughout the whole video, and it's the one that most people don't want to do. But again, this is all temporary. So I think it's very low risk for burning out, but this method is to find a part-time job that can allow you to work 1 weekend out of the month, 2 weekends, maybe 3 weekends, or maybe a few nights a week after your regular job. We already talked about gig work earlier, which I think is a great option, but sometimes just getting hired somewhere where you can get regular hours on a consistent basis is just as effective as all the time you put into trying to get gigs. So a temporary part-time job is something you can consider. Earlier, I talked about pausing or canceling certain expenses that you can put on hold for now, beauty services, subscriptions, etc. But in this big leap idea, what you can do is to pause or cancel all of your services and subscriptions. And the idea here is that you add them back in one at a time if you deem them absolutely necessary. So in the earlier version, you're like,
All right, I don't watch Netflix that much. Let me put that on pause. Or I don't watch Showtime. Or I don't watch Hulu. Let me pause that for now.
what I'm telling you to do right now is take all of your services and subscriptions that are non-essentials in your life, right? Don't cancel subscriptions to medicine or anything like that. But take all of your non-essential services and subscriptions and pause or cancel every single one of them. In fact, if you're not ready to do that, at the very least, list them all out, see what they cost, add them up, and see how much you would save on a monthly basis by pausing or canceling all of them. Multiply that by 5 if you're doing the 5-month challenge and see how much you can actually save. So this is the next level version of cutting out expenses. It's like cutting everything, putting everything to a halt and only bringing it back in if you absolutely can't live without it. All right, as a reminder, I've said it many times in this video, none of this has to be permanent. Hey, Rocco. If your goal is to save $10,000 as fast as you possibly can, even one of these moves can free up hundreds of dollars, maybe in some instances thousands, like selling your car. But every intentional decision you make is gonna help you reach that goal. But more importantly, during this sprint, what I think is the biggest thing you're gonna learn is you're reprogramming yourself to prioritize saving for the future. Whether you choose to use one of these methods or all 3, or pick and choose from all of the examples I gave you, what I want you to do is get started and pick the things that feel doable for you right now. You can always adjust along the way. And last reminder, don't forget, this is your challenge. Your $10,000 might end up being only $7,000 or $3,000 or $1,000. That is still a win. For some of you, your $10,000 might end up being way more than that, which is great. Maybe you want to pay me a commission for helping you with all these ideas. I'm just kidding. Let me know in the comments which method or methods you're gonna try. And if you really want to kick things off strong with method number 1 on spending strategically, check out my video on 5 ways to trick yourself into spending less. Until next time, peace out.